How are you doing, Doc? How are you? Why don't you go back to where you started from? So, what happened to you? Someone sucked you through a knot hole? Gunsmoke was not just well-liked, it was the most watched show on TV for 20 years, with Marshall. Matt Dillon is positioned in the center, offered viewers drama, roughness, and stories that will stay with you. But even the best in shows, mistakes are made. Additionally, one scene from Gunsmoke is now extensively dispersed, not for the right reasons. It's a blooper, somehow survived the editing process, and once you've observed it, it's impossible to unsee. It's not the only private moment, though, from the show's duration. There are also behind-the-scenes drama and humorous shenanigans, more than you may think. Join us as we consider the beauty of Gunsmoke and locate the one scene that the producers missed. For sure, the initiative that had an impact westerns will continue to be a favorite. The smoke from weapons was the dramatic adaptation of the American epic western mythology, our own Iliad and Odyssey. Cecil Smith, Los Angeles Times. Gunsmoke started out as a radio play in 1952. The scene was in Dodge City, Kansas, during the 1870s. Right now, the American West was still wild and dangerous. The main character was a Marshal Matt Dillon, works as a police officer. On the radio, William Conrad gave his voice. Later, when the show switched to the television, was taken over by James Aries Function. In 1952, the radio version went on the air until 1961. It became a favorite among many of radio dramas. However, even though it had no at first, sponsors, CBS believed in it and kept it going. Many people. Even now, Gunsmoke was considered one of the best radio shows ever created. In 1955, Gunsmoke transformed into a TV show. It was shown on CBS and stayed on the air for 20 years. The duration of each presentation was a mere half hour. But in 1961, the format was modified to 1 hour. This made it possible for the software to explore characters and stories. Over the years, a total of 635 shows were aired, that making it the longest-running script. American primetime television programs till The Simpsons smashed the record later. But previously, Gunsmoke was not comparable. In fact, during its second in 1956, it peaked at the top of the TV season. In the United States, 10 shows. Furthermore, from 1957 until in 1961, it topped the charts. The audience loved the action, the drama, and the way that told stories about the West. But there was more to the performance than only gunfights and bad guys. Dodge Life City. The story of Gunsmoke's events in Dodge City, Kansas. This was true after the Civil War. The town was crowded, numerous people starting new lives, pursuing dreams, and sometimes creating issues. It all revolved around Marshall, Matt, and Dillon. He was responsible for preserving peace in a place where peril was present everywhere. Dillon had company. He was helped by his subordinate officers. First to come was Chester Good, then later Thesis Hagen. Both of them were devoted, yet often unsure when Matt wasn't around. Doc Adams, the local authority on physician. He was smart and kind, even though his antiquated methods annoyed a couple of patients. Of course, there was Miss Kitty Russell was the saloon's owner. Dillon and she seldom spent time together, yet they had a close relationship and were shown as lovers and clear-cut. Most of the episodes of Gunsmoke showed problems getting to Dodge from the outside. Sometimes Matt had to go. The municipality and the deputies had to cope with their own. These incidents added to the tension. This showed how dependent Dodge City was on Matt and Dillon. The show wasn't only. There were moments of laughter mixed with seriousness. Thesis, Doc, and Chester often added light-hearted moments to balance the drama. That combination made Gunsmoke feel full-bodied and authentic. World, not just a TV screen. From a short stories to a whole epic. In its first, Gunsmoke operated for 30 years. Episodes. These previous episodes at the time were later played back as Marshall. Dillon. In the UK, the program operated under another name is Gun Law. When it was changed, the plots were condensed into 1-hour chunks in 1961, become significantly richer. There was more time to look into the feelings of the characters and their lifestyle. That's among the causes. The performance lasted forever. It grew with it, its audience. Furthermore, even though other westerns come gone, Gunsmoke added. 30 numerous western shows were shown during its. They all ran, but none reached Gunsmoke did. In actuality, by the late 1960s, CBS the intention was to cancel the performance. It wasn't as popular as before, but the general public had something to say. The supporters were upset. Even Congress was informed, and Babe Paley, the wife of CBS President William Paley, specifically asked her spouse to abstain from stop using Gunsmoke. CBS intervened to preserve it to a different era. Mondays at the relocation was completed successfully around 8 p.m. The ranks rose again. For a few more years, Gunsmoke made a comeback to the top 10. It even outlasted other well-known westerns, including Alias Smith, Jones, and Bonanza. Although the series ended in early 1973, Gunsmoke kept riding. Few days ago, and excellent goodbye. Despite all of its accomplishments, ultimately CBS decided to stop airing Gunsmoke in 1975. However, I was amazed at how they managed to do it. Everyone. The producers and actors didn't even know that the show was ending. CBS did not issue an official notice. There was neither a final nor a particular farewell. Last episode. James Aries is a performer who, we didn't, Marshall Dillon stated, do a last wrap-up show. We completed the 20th year. We all anticipated continuing for another season, or 2 or 3. Nobody was ever informed by network that they were thinking of canceling. Instead, the actors and crew read the news in their line of work, records. After 20 seasons and 635, Gunsmoke was performed in each episode precisely as that. But the program had already left its mark. It took home 15 Primetime Emmys. Awards and continued to be listed in the Nielsen Top 30, even during its final year. That is not typical for any television show, especially one that been on the air for 20 years. But more love was on the way. After the conclusion of the series, 5 TV films were produced. Fans were given a tiny additional time spent with their personalities grown up with. At the moment, people still talk about Gunsmoke. It was more than just a western. It was incorporated into America's TV history, drama, comedy, and life lessons at one place. Furthermore, with it is scarcely unexpected that such a legacy exists, that observant followers continue to record unnoticed items from today editing. One such blooper scene. Everyone is discussing something. The hidden facet of Gunsmoke's long-term success. You see, Gunsmoke wasn't just any show. On TV, it was a legend, really. Running from 1955 to 1975, it became the second longest-running show. On television, audiences loved its thrilling stories, romantic characters in addition to the historic Western charm. It introduced new stars while giving senior citizens important roles at the same time, actors having a track record. As of right moment, fans keep talking about it, and indefinitely reason. With 635 episodes over 20 years, backstage stories are plentiful that most people don't know about. Even after years later, the crew and performers still offer facts that could surprise loyal supporters. From constructing stories to, there were some on-set rules in the software of secrets. One of the primary causes James was responsible for the show's successful run. Aries played the role of Marshal Matt Dillon and never disappeared. Even if a lot of performers quit shows because of other obligations or personal problems, Aries stayed from the start to finish. Not just as a background, though, he was the main attraction. Even when he played supporting parts in some episodes, he was always the primary character. Only Kelsey Grammer was only utilized once in. There are more Grammer episodes than Aries. Earlier trips were often short. A8 was all about recess. John, the hidden connection between Wayne and Miss Kitty. According to several admirers, Matt's involvement Dillon was first presented to John Wayne. But that's not true. According to Charles Marquis Warren, who was in charge of was close to Wayne and had seen some episodes, That never took place. John Wayne, he said he lived near me and we got together at congregated in his bar, reviling.television. He hated TV. But Wayne made a big difference. He proposed James Aries for the role. In addition to that, advice changed everything. Miss comes next. Kitty Russell is played by Amanda Blake. She owned the Long Branch Saloon and showed up in almost 500 episodes. But there was a mystery about her character, especially in the first radio version. The program's creator, Norman, at one point, MacDonald hinted at her real role, asserting, Kitty is just someone Matt has to visit from time to time. That according to the statement from Time magazine, she was obviously not selling chocolate bars. Typically, admirers were interested in the Matt and Kitty's relationship. Many people hoped for a love story, yet the two never displayed on the screen. At one point, Amanda Blake replied in jest, she would like it if Matt said, Kitty, let's buy a piece of property and grow some children and beans. But we'd have in the West, I love Lucy. James Aries agreed. Think they thought you could only go so far. In the event that Matt and on-screen Kitty was in a love relationship, then they would have to marry. Then after that, you would have another software. There. So their relationship remained silent, yet clear. Always present, never aired. In its whole, their collaboration increased the depth of the show without ever changing its core. He even made jokes about in Abbott and Costello, the monsters roll meet Frankenstein in 1948. But in the end, Gunsmoke was his last project. Strange passed away in 1973 after a long career from lung cancer. Glenn Strange left, though. There's more. Then TV credits. His co-star and friend Buck Taylor received an award in a very personal way. Taylor revealed his third son's name to Glenn, proving how well-liked and respected the cast each had for each other. Even off-screen, Dennis Weaver portrayed Chester Good had a fascinating start as well. When he thought he was, when he initially tried out, reading the main portion of Matt Dillon's work. Weaver said later, I stuck my head back, walked in and inquired, Are you sure you didn't want me to read from Matt Dillon? He thought the Chester role was absurd, but the creators had him in thoughts. He tried again with a fresh. The transaction was made by the emphasis. Alterations, remorse, and secrets that impacted the show. Following Weaver's consent changes in Chester's role, quickly but during Matt's auditions Dillon, a new problem emerged. Dennis Weaver was so charming on screen that he started to look like the lead. To fix, the gang asked him to provide Chester a quirk of the body. Weaver went back to his house. In his backyard, he practiced limp walking, display it on the screen. It worked, but it became something he also regretted. That limp accompanied him to every Gunsmoke had to undergo a transformation during the episode. Period. It persisted in spite of notable shifts in American culture. Since the beginning of black and white television to color, and from the calm 1950s to the changing in the 1960s and 1970s, the initiative was able to endure, which included, among other things, becoming used to audience expectations, competition from other shows, as well as anti-war demonstrations, also had a successful resurgence in the 1990s through 5 movies on television, showing the fan base's ongoing strength. Even the primary characters weren't entirely developed right away. Doc Adams's performance, Milburn Stone's work, lacked an initial name for 16 years. He had a lot of money. Background. He continued his medical education in Riverboat employed Philadelphia. They were gamblers and even knew Mark Twain. But the writers never provided him with a suitable first name. Finally, they permitted Stone made the choice himself. He chose Garland, became a household name. Amanda Blake was one of Miss Kitty Russell's cast members. She was given the award after 19 years of the event. Role, because she put a lot of effort into earning it. She had heard Gunsmoke's departure over the radio. She sounded, she remarked, wanting to go on TV the creators before to giving her the. Nevertheless, she left before the final season. A major contributing aspect was the death of her friend Glenn Strange was the one in charge, at the bar at her saloon. With regard to it, not only wins people over, it was also rewarded. Missed honors opportunities, in addition to the woman who said no. The script, performance, and overall. The production of the play received a lot of recognition. The group, which consists of well-known individuals like Hank Miller and Burt Reynolds, helped create the show's 15 Primetime Emmy nominations and 4 Golden Globe nods. In addition, Gunsmoke earned 2 and 2 TV Land Awards, Western Heritage Awards. Writers from Furthermore, the program was acknowledged by the American Western Writers Guild, American Entertainers, and Writers Weekly. Nevertheless, even with notable triumphs, there are speculative scenarios. Amanda Blake may have become the spokesperson for Miss Kitty, but she wasn't chosen at first. That honor went to actress Polly Bond, who is married to. The actor Tommy Bond from Little Rascal was offered the job but turned it down. Why? Because she would have made more money than her husband. With there already, the pair is struggling. Polly had no desire to apply any additional pressure. In the end, she refused and Amanda Blake stepped in. Sometimes the well-known TV personalities get their own. Gunsmoke only has one spin-off. In 1971, a character was introduced by the producers in the 2-part Sally Fergus series episode. Sally was 62 years old and a tobacco smoker, chewing strong woman who looked after a wounded fighter. She was well liked by the audience. That's why they showed her a show called Dirty Sally in 1974, but it didn't last long. However, actress Jeanette Nolan was given a Primetime Emmy nomination for her function. The little things that made a big difference. Distinction. Thesis Hagen's charm wasn't just in his speech or manner of walking. It was based on Ken Curtis and was inspired by real-life occurrences. Thesis on a friend from childhood, Jack Cedar, a fence post maker, with his witty yet rough manner helped to produce one of Gunsmoke's best-beloved characters. Glenn Strange has a familiarity with horror movies, although he became well-liked by the saloon's customers. Barr. After his away in 1973, he was fondly remembered by his fellow actors, especially Buck Taylor. Kind of relationship shows how intimate some actors were. Doc didn't get a first name till season 16. Chester had to falter in every scene. Amanda Blake had to beg her to do her share. Dennis Weaver almost read the text incorrectly. Part. These small, humorous nuances, some difficult, worked together to build something lasting. The show did well. Alterations of all kinds, from black and white toe color, humor, dramatic intensity, and brevity. It even dealt with both short and long ones, with cast losses and cultural shifts. It was all the same for Gunsmoke. The show's power wasn't only from the literature or the set design. It started with musicians, the histories of their characters and their choices both on and off screen. An unparalleled history. Gunsmoke wasn't just Austern. It was a television giant. For it was referred to for many years as the Primetime Live-Action television program with the longest-run historical series in the United States. The show features 20 seasons, the most of any could exceed till 2019, at which point, Police Specialized Victims Unit started the 21st season and broke Gunsmoke's history. Before that, even the originally Law and Order had restrained the document, but the cancellation occurred in. However, it wasn't until 2022 that the first appearance of Law and Order with additionally, it is the 21st season. With respect to Gunsmoke, stayed in the episodes that were written, long period at the top. It had additional, the most episodes of any American prime commercial live-action program up to the start of The Simpsons past it in 2018. At this point, one period ended, and the beginning of another. But Gunsmoke maintains its high global ranking as of in 2016. It was the 4th longest-running television show in the world behind Taggart, Doctor Who, and The Bill. Do you think the persona of Gunsmoke possessed the largest impact on the show's success? Why? Share your thoughts in the comment below, and don't forget to hit for more, kindly like, subscribe, and return. Incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. I'll talk to you later.